starting lineup of your favorite show. At producer, 5'11" from Blanchester, the Cow Killer, Casey McCollister. And comic engineer, standing at 4'8", the pride of the West Side, Elliot Rearing. And your host, weighing 150 pounds, soaking wet, from Hamilton, Ohio, Ace Fowler.
Wow. You like it? You like that new intro?
I like it. I like it a lot. I think it's fantastic. Lindsay, do you like it is the question.
Yeah, I like it. It's good.
You do?
I like it, yeah.
Lindsay should have been in this thing at least for the time being, for the spring. I mean, she's here every day.
I agree. I don't know why we didn't add her.
All right. Okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. I'm Thom Brennaman, sitting in for Trace Fowler. It feels like deja vu all over again. Yes, Mr. McCollister?
Yes, it does. But it's back to what it used to be.
The original.
The original way.
The original way. You and me.
Yep.
Yep.
It's like old times.
Big League Paul was around back in those days. Now we have a UC student in Lindsay rather than an ex-guy in Big League Paul. So we're making progress.
We're making good progress.
Yes, big progress. We come your way Monday through Friday, 10 to 12. Come on, Lindsay.
I'm sorry.
Check us out on YouTube/Chatterbox Sports page or download us in podcast form. Wherever you get your podcasts, just search Off the Bench. And you're dialed in. Of course, we also broadcast live on X. Search Chatterbox Sports. And you can follow me on X at Thom Brennaman TV. Speaking of Chatterbox, the boys are on the move today, or so we are led to believe. From Denver, Colorado, straight south to the Grand Canyon State. Believe it or not, a lot of people who live in this part of the country that have never had a chance to spend any time out west, I was one of them, do not realize that Arizona is the Grand Canyon State. A lot of people think Colorado. I thought Colorado. Did you guys think Colorado?
No.
No. You're smarter than that. You thought it was Arizona?
I think I knew that it was Colorado.
I don't know why I thought that. I had never been there, of course, till I was 20-something years old. Now, listen, I love to do this kind of thing, and maybe you do, maybe you don't, but I love to do this kind of thing. We were talking about it this morning. How long of a drive do you think it is from Phoenix or from Denver to Phoenix? Denver to Phoenix, okay? Now, it is 17 hours from Cincinnati to Denver, all right? And you cross through, depending on which way you go, 6 or 7 different states. Arizona and Colorado are border states, okay? So 17 Cincy to Denver. How far Denver to Phoenix?
Well, we know,
you know
here
in
the office because you told us. But my initial guess was like 9 hours, 10 hours maybe. It's a lot more than that. Significantly a lot more than that.
It's amazing how big landmass-wise those states are. Again, I never realized it. I mean, you'd fly into L.A., you do a game, you fly into San Francisco, do a couple games, you go to San Diego, but was never driving until I moved to Arizona. And then you're like, the population outside of a place like Phoenix is basically nothing, zero. Little college town in Flagstaff, a little bit of population in Tucson. That is a 13-and-a-half-hour ride. 13-and-a-half hours. Google it if you don't believe it. We're going to check in with those guys about 11:30 if they're up and moving. All right, let's begin in the NFL today because this could have implications for the Bengals. Star players, or at least one-time star players, continue to get released. In Denver, we know about Russell Wilson. That's a matter of time. But then yesterday, the Broncos released star safety Justin Simmons, the longest tenured Bronco, 2-time All-Pro, 4-time second-team All-Pro. Now, this is a guy maybe the Bengals are looking at. There are a whole bunch of safeties that are out there for some reason. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. The Bears agree to a 4-year, $76 million deal with cornerback Jalen Johnson. In baseball news, Reds and the Cubbies got together last night in Goodyear, Arizona. That game ended in a 2-2 tie. Hunter Green, who says he's trying to be more pitch efficient this year. In other words, get past the 5th inning every now and again. He went 3 innings last night. He only allowed 2 hits, 2 runs, but he walked 3 and struck out 5. So you do the math. You strike out 5, that's a minimum of 3 pitches. There's 15. You walk 3, that's a minimum of 12. That's 27 pitches on just strikeouts and walks. And that doesn't even factor in, there might have been other strikes in the 4-ball count, and there might have been balls in the 3-strike count. He's got to get better. He's got to get better. Spencer Steer hit a home run. Josh Harrison knocked in a run. The Dodgers and Reds get together at 8:05 Eastern Time tonight. Craig Sandman will join us to talk about the Redlegs here in about 20 minutes. College basketball, who could forget? Maybe Casey does. He's an NKU alum. But you never know it. It was this time a year ago when NKU stormed through the Horizon League en route to the NCAA tournament. Well, last night, the NORSE opened the conference tourney on the road at Wright State in a quarterfinal round. Marquez Warwick, the all-time leading scorer in school history, pours in 35. Michael Bradley scored 4 in overtime. NKU wins a wild one, 99-97 in OT. You have this play. Now, this is the end of the game, okay? They're down by 2. NKU is at the line. They made the first one, and now you know they're going to intentionally miss the second one because they need a rebound and a basket with 4 seconds left.
Correct.
Roll the videotape.
Before we roll this too, NKU at one point was down by 15 points, I believe. So just to put it in perspective, they had made a crazy rally back here late down the stretch, and this is the play that sent them into overtime to give them a chance to win.
Okay, here it is. So he's got to miss the second one, and they got to get a rebound and put it back in. Look at this. That's just will right there. Randall Pettis II. He just ripped that ball right out of the hands and willed himself to tie the game. That's NKU this time of year.
Yeah, that's a Darren Horn type of mentality right there.
No doubt. No doubt.
Nut cutter.
Big time. And one of our favorites here on the program. The NORSE will face the number 6 seed Milwaukee. That tournament does not resume again until Monday up in Indianapolis. The 2 teams split the season series. NKU beat them by 20 at home, lost on a buzzer beater by 1. They're going to beat them. This weekend is the final weekend of the college basketball regular season. Tonight, can you see this, boys and girls? Tonight, up the road here in Oxford, only a few miles up the road. They're not red hot. They are white hot. The Ohio University, facing rival Miami. The Bobcats have ripped off 9 of their last 10. They have a chance to nail down the number 2 seed in next week's MAC tournament in Cleveland. Also tonight, we're getting a lot of guys in the chat today. Want to talk about Dayton. They're ranked 25th in the country. We'll host VCU at UD Arena. Believe it or not, I was surprised by this because I don't follow them that closely. I know they got the big guy there in the middle. And when some other guys play well and they knock down some threes, they are a very dangerous team. But I was stunned by this. The Flyers will not be the top seed in their conference tournament. In fact, they won't be the number 2 seed in next week's A-10 tournament. Those spots belong to Richmond and Loyola Chicago, and yet Dayton is ranked. UC will host West Virginia at Fifth Third Arena at 2 o'clock. Keegan Nickerson from Bearcat Journal stops by the program today at 11. Xavier concludes its regular season 5 o'clock tomorrow night at Cintas Center against Marquette. And we know the Golden Eagles will be without injured star Tyler Kolek. The must-see games tomorrow, if you have time to do it. You have number 14, Kansas, at number 1, Houston. You have number 15, Kentucky, at number 4, Tennessee. That's down in Knoxville. And then, of course, always the headline act has number 7, North Carolina, looking for a season sweep of 9th-ranked Duke. That's at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Tip-off on ESPN tomorrow night, 6 30. Then on Sunday, you got to bring it up. Another team to sort of keep an eye on right now, Ohio State. The Buckeyes are playing very, very well since they fired their head coach. Big wins over Purdue and Michigan State. They'll take on Rutgers at 2 o'clock on the Big Ten Network. And last, but certainly never least, there's FC Cincinnati.
That's right.
Now, this isn't MLS stuff, right? I mean, they started the MLS season, but now here we go, stepping out for these various, whatever they are.
The CONCACAF Champions Cup tournament.
So this is one of those in-season tourney deals,
Yep.
right? This was a round of 16, and they took on CF Monterrey. Guess who plays for them? The all-time leading scorer in FC Cincinnati history, Brandon Vasquez. You have his goal here?
I do have his goal
He
here.
scored the only goal of the game.
He did. This was just a tough game to watch. I mean, FC had plenty of chances to score. I feel like, you got to get that ball. That's too easy of a score to me. I know it's Vasquez. He's ripping those shots right. Very, very hard shots to stop in the block, but I feel like if you're Roman Salentano, one of the best goalies in MLS, you get your hands on it, you're probably going to stop it, and that time you just couldn't get it done. Monterrey had a red card in the 70th minute, and they still couldn't find a way in the last 20-plus minutes to find a way to score when they were up an advantage in terms of men on the field. I got to start to wonder if they can get something going offensively. I don't know if it's just not enough time to get adjusted to each other because they've got a lot of new pieces. I really didn't pay too much attention to Yedlin and what he was doing, but I just feel like offensively right now they are really struggling to put something together. It feels like they're trying to find their way.
Yeah.
I'm not worried about their defense. They got another chance in this tournament, it looks like, in March 14th. I'm not sure if that's correct. I don't know if the round
I
of
couldn't
16
tell by reading the article. I got very confused reading about it this morning. Answer me one question, though, because we're going to move on here.
Yep.
Why did FC Cincinnati lose Vasquez? Is he in a better league playing for Monterrey?
No, but he makes significantly more money
Okay,
now.
all right.
Yeah,
Pretty much it always comes down to that.
Yeah.
But he said, he wasn't going to celebrate if he scored because he has nothing but love and appreciation for his time here in Cincinnati. And he did not celebrate after he gave his teammates a hug and a high five, but he wasn't running around and taking his shirt off or, all the nonsense you see sometimes after goals.
Yeah, after that, I cut it a little short, but after that goal and all that celebration with the team, he actually praises the fans.
Yeah.
So.
Classy guy.
Yeah, classy guy.
Classy guy, MVP of the league last year. Good for him. Nice to have him back into town. We got a lot of people really, really interested in Dayton basketball in the chat today. I didn't realize we had that many that follow UD basketball. I got to tell you, I was up there the other night. The school where our kids went to school, Marymount High School, public school, small school out on the east side of Cincinnati. For the fourth year in a row, Marymount played in the district championship game. And the game was 2 nights ago at UD Arena. I drove up there, and, man, I feel like I'm a broken record because every time I go there, I say the same thing. That place is unbelievable.
It is.
That is a big-time arena.
I've been there one time, I believe, and it was packed. And this was like, I want to say 10-plus years ago.
Oh, yeah.
And it was
Every
packed.
game's
It was
packed at
huge.
Dayton plays.
Oh, yeah.
You can't get near the place. I'm not exaggerating. It's not like one of these deals where, Appalachian State, I'm just picking a name out of the hat, right? They come rolling in December as an out-of-conference game. In a lot of places, UC, maybe Xavier, they'll sell the tickets, but they're not even close to having fannies in the seats. You go to a game, it doesn't matter who they play. At Dayton, packed. And, man, by the way, what a game that was the other night. I know most of you don't care. Marymount was down 13 points with 4 minutes to go. They looked DUN. They tied the game in regulation and won in overtime. I couldn't believe it, and I watched it. It's like that old Jack Buck line. I can't believe what I just saw. And I even now, 48 hours later, I can't believe it happened. It was amazing. Anyway, good luck to the Warriors. They face, I've never understood if it's Versailles or Versailles, the town in Ohio.
I've heard Versailles way more than I've heard of Versailles.
Maybe somebody in the chat can help us with that.
You know, we shouldn't really be surprised about the UD fans. I mean, when they went to UC this season and completely embarrassed the Cincinnati fan base, I mean,
Yep.
we should have probably realized that we have quite a few more UD fans in here than we realize.
You're right.
But hey, maybe we'll start covering it a little bit more, a little more seriously.
Thanks to everybody in the chat. Reed jumped in. Drew Garrison, so did Rocky M. and others. Apparently here in Ohio, we call it Versailles.
Versailles.
Yes.
See,
Over in Germany, we call it Versailles. Right?
Yeah, and in Blantucky, we call it Versailles. So.
Blantucky. Okay. We got a number of guests today. I got to tell you, if you guys haven't checked out what Trace and Elliot and Nick Kirby, and forgive me, they're two videographers. What are their names again? Do you know?
So
because we just met these guys, and they're riding around in a van across the country with these three clowns.
Yeah, so one of them is Taylor, and then the other one is Jeremiah. Jeremiah is the one that might take my job after he comes back. So,
What do you mean take your job? What does that mean?
that's just what Trace said. He said he's better at spelling and
Spelling?
fact checking. Yeah,
Is your job heavily reliant upon spelling?
yeah. And when I post Twitter clips, I got to know the difference between red leg, 2 words, and red legs. Tom, how would you spell red legs? Would you spell it 1 word or is it 2 words?
I would spell it 1 word.
You just can't see that in the Webster dictionary, right? It's just something you can't fact check. You just got to know. I don't know.
That's right. Anyway, I tell you, it's really cool what these guys are doing. I found myself thinking the other night, my wife asked me, she said, Polly asked me, she said, would you go on a trip like that? And I'm like, are you kidding me? This is what every dude who's been married for 20-something years, like we have, right? Be 24 years here in a number of months, right? I mean, not only a married dude for 20-something years, you could be a married dude for a year and a half. You could be just some dude who's in your 20s, and you could be some guy who's an empty nester like I am in your 50s, and all of a sudden you get a chance to jump in a van. Now, I'm sure there are moments in the van where it's a little rough. There's no doubt. No doubt. You're tired of being around people. It's confined, you know. But, I mean, they go to Kansas basketball game, right?
Right.
Allen Fieldhouse.
Yep.
They go to a hockey game in Denver.
Yep.
They go to an NBA game last night, Thriller, the Nuggets and the Celtics,
Yep.
right? They go to that. And now they're on their way down to spring training in Arizona.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, are you kidding? That's what all dudes want to do.
Absolutely.
Why didn't you go? Were you not invited?
No, I needed to stay here with Reed to make sure that we have enough guys for Miami. We got to pay the bills around here. I got to do the ad reads. And, you know, I don't mind paying the bills to make sure those guys have a fun time and make great content for us. That doesn't bother me at all. I think it is really cool that they got to do this. I think the hope is that we all get to do it next time, right? Like,
right.
Just like Trace said, he wants us all to be there. I enjoy everyone in our group. I think we all would have had a great time. Yeah, I mean, but what an amazing trip that they're on, right? I mean, it's not just any games either. These are like some of the top teams
No doubt.
in each of their respective sports. I mean, the Detroit Red Wings, notoriously in the last couple of years, have not been great, but this year they're really, really good. Avalanche is probably the best NHL team for sure above the Dallas Stars. And that was a great game to go watch. The home team won, and they scored a lot. And
Yeah.
Kansas, Allen Fieldhouse, they blew out Kansas State.
Yeah.
That was a great game to watch. And I know yesterday Elliott picked the Nuggets to cover, and they won the game outright. So they're having not only a great
Well, wait a
time,
minute
but
now. There's a difference between winning the game outright and covering. Did they cover?
Yes, they covered.
Okay, all
they
right,
covered.
okay,
They covered.
okay.
They covered by quite a bit.
Okay.
But they're also making money. I mean, I don't think they've really lost a whole lot of money on this trip either. They've gambled quite a few different things on each of these games, and they've just been hitting like crazy. So it's been pretty great for them. I thought the coolest thing, though, out of all that was their stop on the mountain when it was snowing.
Estes Park, right outside of Denver, ski resort out there.
That was beautiful. I wish that I could have been there to see that, but that was really cool to see.
That's one of the cool things, if you're into the outdoors or if you're a skier, is that you live in a city like Denver, and you know, around here we have Perfect North, and look, I'm not sitting here comparing Perfect North to Estes Park, but I mean, I've been to Perfect North 1,000 times with our kids, and I'm not a good skier, but it's fun to get outside and some fresh air and you know all that kind of thing. But if you live in downtown Denver, you're going to a big league joint when you're going to Estes Park. I mean, it's just like shooting out in the suburbs, go about 30, 40 minutes, and bang, there you are. It's pretty nice. Mark Fetter says those mountains are no joke. No, they are not. That would be the beginning of the Rocky Mountains, so they are no joke whatsoever. All right, we had promised, and we're going to get to him a little bit earlier than we had said we would because he's here earlier than we had asked him to be, correct?
Yep.
Okay, Craig Sandman, are you there, young man?
What's up, Tom? How we doing?
Good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Appreciate you having me. Sorry. I guess I'm a little bit early. I wanted to get on here.
No, people can apologize for being late, as you know, Craig, but never apologize for being early.
Of course. I appreciate you having me.
Unless, you know, you're having somebody over to the house, and this happens from time to time, and you're running a little late, you're trying to get things together, right? Whether it's the food or whether it's the appetite, well, whatever it is, and you're just not ready, and you told people, 6:30. And they show up at 6:22. Well, maybe then you need to apologize because you ain't ready to go, right? You're ready to go.
Absolutely. Just sit in the car if you're that early. Just sit in the car.
That's exactly right.
Listen,
right.
Tom, I'm excited. We got 2 Bobcats here. I'm an OU grad myself. So I'm excited about the Bobcats and what Jeff Bowles has got going on there in Athens. He's got it working. We've got a good team. We'll see what they can do in the tournament. They're playing well at the right time, and really that's what matters. So 9 of their last 10, I think their lone loss was by 2 at Toledo. Yep. So, I mean, shout out to the Bobcats for sure.
I tell you, it's going to be interesting. Jeff Bowles, who, those of you that don't know, he was a former player at Ohio University, so he's at his alma mater. But this was a guy you may remember. It was only 2 years ago they knocked off Virginia, right, in the NCAA tournament. And he has had incredible success. It took them a while to kind of find their footing this year. They were sort of limping around 500, and now, as you just mentioned, and I said earlier, 9 out of 10. They play Miami up the road in Oxford tonight. I just wonder how long Ohio University can keep this guy. I don't know if a guy like him would get strong consideration for a job, say, at Ohio State or somewhere like that. I hope he doesn't leave because he's done a great job. But I got to believe that this is a year he might be getting a serious look from people. You agree with that or no?
Yeah, well, going back to, the early 2010s when Jeff was an assistant at Ohio State prior to getting the head coaching job at Stony Brook. So Jeff was at Stony Brook. I was actually working in college athletics at the time at the University of Hartford. And so I got to see firsthand the work that Jeff Bowles was doing at Stony Brook prior to taking the job at Ohio. And his name had been thrown around for seemingly 100 jobs prior to taking the Ohio job. So it seems to me that he's very happy there, and it was a job that he wanted, which a lot of times with coaches, quite frankly, you don't have that. They're taking jobs to be a stepping stone. So for him to take this job being the job that he wanted, I'm hopeful that they can keep him around. But again, his background with Ohio State, there's certainly going to be some talks with him if Sean Miller falls through and some of the other more high-profile coaches fall through. That's going to be the biggest question is you got a new athletic director at Ohio State with Ross Bjork. Is he going to be trying to make a splash in his first hire, or is he going to be trying to set up the program for long-term success?
Yep, it'll be interesting. All right, we'll go Bobcats next week in Cleveland, and go Bobcats tonight up here, up the road in Oxford. A couple of guys here in the chat saying that Craig is big league. They call you the Sandman. And one of the things that I used to have a lot of fun with a number of our regular watchers is buying the hype. They would always get on my case about not buying the hype. You know where I'm coming from here. With the Reds, you're buying the hype. Am I right or wrong, or are those guys wrong?
I am buying the hype. And one of the things that's been interesting to see is the mixture of people in the media who are buying the hype or the complete opposite. We saw recently with Talking Baseball who weren't necessarily all in on the Reds. One of the things that I saw yesterday with the MLB The Show releasing their player rankings, I think Matt McClain was the highest rated player, and he was an 84. So I'm not really sure that everybody's buying the hype. I'm extremely excited about the potential for this team. It's nice to see some of the offensive pieces come together recently, for sure. Obviously, the pitchers are working on spring training things as they should be. So I'm still all in on the hype. I know there's some people out there talking about stats that maybe aren't going the way they wanted. But at the end of the day, people like Hunter Green and some of the other pitchers right now are not focusing on pitching the way they will be in the season. They're focused right now on working on adding to their repertoire, perfecting the pitches that they're working on. And so I'm not worried like some of the people are about the quote-unquote paper and the production that they're seeing right now, but I'm all in. I think this team can very easily win 85, 86 games, but I honestly wouldn't be shocked to see them pushing 90, 92.
Really?
I'm all in. Now, obviously, as we talk about on the show, every week it seems like health is going to play a huge factor in this, right? You've seen a lot of depth on the mound from this team, and the pitchers that they're expecting depth from for this season are throwing very well this spring. Offensively, I'm not so sold on the depth across the infield specifically. I think they have a number of pieces who can plug in, but I'm not as sold on the depth there. So a couple injuries offensively could really derail them. But I'm very excited about the depth that they've shown, especially on the mound. And I think that there's some pieces, hopefully offensively, that can step up. Tyler Stevenson over the last week or so has finally shown a little bit of life there in Arizona. And if he can get things going, then that's going to be a huge piece for this team.
You know, the thing I always get back to, Craig, is this. And what concerns me, I believe very much there is such a thing as a sophomore slump. It's not so much that it's a sophomore slump. It's more that guys have a better idea on the mound of how to attack a young hitter. And that's why you see guys like Ellie De La Cruz trying to make significant changes in their approach at the plate and so on and so forth. So that battle will go on all year long. But I'm with you. I think that when I look at Strand, I look at McClain, I look at De La Cruz, I look at Marte, I look at Steer, I think these guys are more than capable of making the proper adjustments because they're very talented players. Here's my concern, okay? And I really put very little stock in spring training. I think if you were to go back and look at the last 10 years in Florida and Arizona, who were the top 5 hitters during spring training and the top 5 pitchers during spring training, most of the names you and I wouldn't even know. You might know, I wouldn't know, okay? So I don't put a lot of stock in that. But you do want to see guys do well. And you want to see Ellie, he's showing he's going to get on base, on and on and on. My concern is this. If the Reds are buying into the old theory, and really this was a situation that was created many, many years ago about the number of innings that a pitcher will make from one season to the next, okay? And generally that's been regarded, you'd like to see them step up 10 to 15% from where they were the year before. They don't have a single guy in this starting rotation. And I know you talked about the depth, but they don't have a guy in this starting rotation that as we enter this season would be a guy that is going to be capable of pitching, starting and pitching 32 to 33 to 34 games and giving you 5 or 6, in this day and age, 7 might be a stretch, but 5 or 6 innings. And so I say to myself, okay, it's great to have that depth, but now if you're bringing up guys that have been AAA pitchers all year long, in August and September when you need the games the most, with that in mind, do you think that David Bell's going to manage differently early in the season to navigate and limit those innings?
Well, you're certainly going to see a lot of management from David Bell on that. I mean, there's a reason they went out and got Nick Martinez with his flexibility and ability to come in and start. The difference for me personally this year versus last year specifically is that because of last year and having to bring up a lot of those arms, you're now bringing up AAA guys who have experience in the big leagues, right? Yep. So you're not bringing them up, asking them to throw their first ever professional big league innings in September and August when you need them most, right? We look at guys like Connor Phillips, who a lot of people are high on and was forced into situations last year who, quite frankly, probably wasn't ready. Same thing with guys like Leon Richardson, right? So now you've got an opportunity with not only the starting pitching hopefully being healthy, but you're going to have a guy like Brandon Williamson potentially, Abbott potentially, who are going to be starting at AAA this year and available for call-up when needed, versus in the past where you were relying on guys who started the season at single-A ball.
Yeah.
So that's the big difference for me is, yes, I 100% agree with you that if you're having to call up AAA arms when it matters most, that you could be in trouble. But when you're calling up major league arms that you've been stashing in AAA, that's a different story to me.
All right. Sort of the case in point is last night. And again, I don't put any stock into maybe because I don't know exactly what guys might be working on, right? But Hunter Green is on the record as saying that he wants to be more pitch efficient. Well, this was like when I was broadcasting the Diamondbacks games, and I saw Randy Johnson for 5 years, and he won the Cy Young Award every single year. Well, they weren't putting pitch limits on Randy Johnson. I mean, if you go back and look at his starts, start by start, every single start over a regular season, there is rarely ever a game he's not going 7. Most he's going 8 and 9, and he's striking out anywhere from 12 to 14 to 15 to as many as 20 batters. So when you strike out a lot of guys, right, you're going to have high pitch counts. Johnson didn't walk many guys. Now, he did when he was a younger man, Hunter Green's age. But last night, 3 innings. He only gives up 2 hits. He punches out 5, but he walks 3. He gives up the 2 runs. I've got to see a better step in the efficiency direction.
No, and I would agree with that, but I think we would also agree that Hunter Green is specifically working on adding pitches to the repertoire this spring.
Yes.
And so, I'll full transparency, I didn't get a chance to watch the full game last night, so I have not watched Hunter Green's outing yet. Certainly look forward to trying to find that and watching it and seeing what were the pitches he was missing on. Obviously he gave up the 2 hits that you talked about, but what was this pitch mix like? Before I do that, I don't want to speculate too much on what was happening, but at the end of the day, this is what spring training is for. I don't think anybody's expecting these guys to come out there and throw 9 shutout innings over the course of the spring. But this is the first opportunity for Hunter Green really to be working hand in hand with DJ in order to be working on these pitches and getting them ready for the regular season. So, again, we talked about not putting a whole lot of stock into the spring training. Hunter Green's one of those people that, from my perspective, and again, I'll watch it when I can, I want to see progress from him. I don't necessarily care too much about the results right now. Mm-hmm. But if he can't throw all those pitches for strikes come April, then I'll certainly start to get concerned and question whether or not it should be part of the repertoire right now.
All right, let me ask you a question, because I've heard a lot of debate about this, and I'm curious. Will Benson or Christian Encarnacion Strand? Now, McLean, De La Cruz, Steer, rightfully so. They get most of the pub. Marte, to a lesser extent, because they're all so young. Well, Encarnacion Strand is young, too, and Benson is young. I I would make the argument that I think those two have the potential to be the two best offensive players on this team this year. A lot of people would scream at me and say, that's ridiculous with De La Cruz. You think I'm out on a limb there or no?
Well, I think it depends on what you consider the best offensive players, right? I think there's, without a doubt, a question for them to be extremely successful and be contributing to this team. I think when you talk about overall contributions, offensively specifically, and you look at what guys like Ellie is able to do on the base paths, creating havoc, which is something that the Reds preach, I think there's an opportunity there for him to contribute beyond just at the plate. So if Ellie can get on base, then there's certainly going to be an opportunity for him to affect the game every single time. And what we've seen this spring is an opportunity for him to really work the count, get on base. He's not necessarily swinging for the fences. And we talked about this in our Zips projection review. But for Ellie, he's been working all offseason on kind of compacting that swing, making it a little bit quieter before the pitch. And so I think there's an opportunity if he can change his approach to have a significant increase this year in his offensive production, and therefore translate that on the base path, scoring runs, stealing bases, etc. Now, Christian Encarnacion Strand specifically has unmatched power on this team, and I think we've seen that this spring. The question is going to be, can he continue to adjust to major league pitching as they adjust to him? And we saw it with Ellie last year when he first came up. He was red hot for the first month, and then pitchers adjusted to him. And so for the next month or so, he was ice cold. And CES is going to have to go through that same sort of transition. Now, I don't think CES's approach to the plate is going to provide as many issues as it did for Ellie. But I do think that he's going to have an adjustment period, probably in the May time period, where pitchers are adjusting a little bit more based on scouting reports and what they're seeing. But him and Benson have both shown an extreme ability to get it done at the plate. One of the things that I've actually really liked from Will this year is he is clearly asking for more at-bats against left-handed pitching. He has complete faith in himself, and so much of this game a lot of times is that confidence piece, and there's no question that Will Benson has confidence.
Yeah, I think this time a year ago, he was that former number one pick from Cleveland that they just didn't work out for him for, multiple reasons. And that happens to a lot of guys. I mean, whether they're a number one pick or a 27th round pick. But you're, of course, under the spotlight more when you're a number one pick. The Reds decide to give him a flyer. He comes up. He literally couldn't find his tail with both hands for about 3 weeks. And then they sent him down to the minor leagues. And, he gets his act together. And I think that's where – see, I like seeing guys in all walks of life here, Craig. I want to see guys and what they do when they fail. When you're a number one pick, there's a really good chance that you have never failed at anything in baseball if you're Will Benson, okay? You probably cruise through Little League, through junior high, through high school, if you go to college, and you are just one of the best, if not the best player on the field every time you run out there, no matter who you're playing against. Now, all of a sudden, you're getting into professional baseball, and these things happen. I love seeing the guy who's been tested, really tested, their confidence, wondering, am I good enough? And he's openly talked about this thing. Should I even play anymore? This ain't going anywhere. That's the kind of guy I look at and I say, man, they've shown me something already. You know what I mean?
This is a game of it's a game of streaks, right? I mean, we're talking about a sport where a 30% success rate gets you in the Hall of Fame, right? So if you have that confidence to bounce back from those cold streaks, then you're going to be extremely successful, right? So it's all about how you bounce back. It's all about how you adjust. I mean, Joey Votto, over his course of his career, has talked about it plenty about how pitchers adjust to him, and so his job is to adjust back to the pitcher, right? So, yeah, I love seeing it. How many number one picks have we seen either never make it to the big leagues at all or make it to the big leagues and within a month they fizzle out and we never really hear from them again? So Will Benson's story is not unique in the world of baseball, quite frankly, but he has shown over the course of the last 12 months or so, well, maybe even less, significantly less actually. Now that
Yeah,
you really think
yeah.
about it, but the ability to bounce back, and it feels like his confidence is back. It feels like he is ready to really impact this team, and he's trying to be the everyday right fielder. Whether or not that's going to happen with the platoon, we'll see. But it's nice to know that in today's game, where pitchers are only going to go somewhere between 4 and 6 innings most of the time, but you're not going to have to immediately pinch hit for him in the 6th inning and burn a pinch hitter and then have to substitute every other inning in order to accommodate pitching.
Well, I'm
So-
still betting the ranch that David Bell's going to do that, but we'll see how that goes. The last thing I want to ask you about is I have never understood, and believe me, I'm a guy who can be as critical as anybody around. These are professional athletes. When they do good, you talk about them doing good. When they don't do well, you talk about them not doing well. They're getting paid to produce. It's about execution and production, and if you don't do it, go home. Just get out. And if you're sensitive to it, get out. I have never understood all of the vitriol that comes Jonathan India's way. Is he a perfect player? No, he is not. There is no question about that. He won the Rookie of the Year. He comes back the next year, was banged up, didn't play all that great. And then last year he played the entire season, probably every single day, was checking his phone with friends, family, whatever it might be. Hey, are you going to get traded? Are you going to get traded? Are you going to get traded? He's gone through the same thing now in the winter. Okay, he's been battling this plantar fasciitis thing, and I've said it myself. I had plantar fasciitis for 10 years, and it was brutal. And the only thing that worked, which he has not done, and for the life of me, I just can't understand it, because it's the same group of doctors that treated mine that treated his. And that's where you get PRP. They take the plasma, take the blood out of your arm, they numb up your leg, and they shoot the plasma back inside of the areas that are torn in the plantar fascia around the heel. It's a process that takes a while, but thank God above, for me anyway, it worked. He didn't do this. But why do you think there is so much negative directed at Jonathan India? He seems like a great guy. I don't know him. He seems like a good dude, right? He's a new father. He's always upbeat. People talk about him being a leader. If people want to say, hey, I think we should trade him because it makes us better and it doesn't take away at bats from A, B, C, and D, fine. But it seems like everybody throws in the hate behind it.
Yeah, I don't necessarily understand the hate completely. I understand the frustration defensively out of Jonathan India,
Sure.
which is one thing, and certainly that's something that he knows he has to work on. The thing for me this year that I'm excited to see is, and we talked about this again on Chatterbox Reds with Nick Kirby. For me personally, the one benefit of platoons and of the way David Bell manages is that he's putting his players in the best position to be successful. And I don't believe that Jonathan India has necessarily been treated as someone who needs to be put in the right position to succeed moving forward. And so he's been an everyday second baseman for the last 2 years, but he really has struggled against right-handed pitching. And so in the new system where not only do we have additional depth in the infield, but the work that he's putting in the outfield, there's going to be an opportunity to really treat him, I said this comparison over the summer, more similar to a Nick Senzel, where he absolutely rakes against left-handed pitching. He maybe struggles against right-handed pitching. And so I know a lot of people don't like the platooning that David Bell does sometimes, but ultimately when we just got done talking about confidence and getting people's confidence up, one of the things that David Bell and the Reds organization is going to do with Jonathan India, obviously it starts by just keeping him. I think that says a lot to him as a player that they chose to keep him despite the opportunity to move him, is they're going to put him in positions to succeed. And then as he continues to succeed, then they can work in additional at-bats against right-handed pitching and otherwise, where maybe it's a more challenging situation, but it allows him to take that confidence he gains against left-handed pitching and parlay that into success against right-handed pitching.
Fair enough. Craig, we can't thank you enough for your time here today, my friend. We'll check in again with you sometime soon, and I hope you have a great weekend.
You got it. Tom, I think Trace is watching. I think I saw a tweet that the guys are watching. So here's my question. Trace loves the conversation about go-to road trip snacks. So I'll ask you, what's your go-to road trip snack?
A cup of coffee. That's my road
Cup
trip
of
snack.
coffee.
I just stop time after time and just keep pounding the coffee and keep rolling. I've done a lot of driving in my life. I love driving. I'm one of those guys. Jump in a car, drive to Arizona, whatever. You like driving? And what's your go-to snack?
Yeah, so I'm the driver in the family. Anytime we drive anywhere, I'm the one behind the wheel, whether the drive is 10 hours or 2 hours. It's me. I'm more of a sweets guy. So
Okay.
I go for the Twizzler nibs, not
All
the
right.
full Twizzlers, just the nibs. You could pop them in just like sunflower seeds. They're a good go-to for me. So I enjoy those.
All righty, my man. Nice to see you. Have a great weekend, Craig.
All right, Tom, we'll talk to you later.
Great stuff from Craig Sandman. We appreciate his time here today very, very much. And he's buying the hype. He said it. I mean, my guy, Sir Boy Wonder, I think, is the guy who started this whole thing. Tom, buy the hype, buy the hype, buy the hype. Right? Wasn't he the guy?
I feel like he is the guy that started it, to be honest with you. And now that's the phrase that we all toss around is buy the hype. I've bought the hype a little bit, Tom. I'm a guy that looks at spring training and goes, there's something there. I know you're not really that type of person that will take much to the spring training. You would rather see it when it matters most, in a regular season game or in the.
That's the only time it matters.
I know.
It's the only time that matters. I mean, this De La Cruz stuff, is it good to see? It's great to see. I think his on-base percentage is over 500 or something so far this spring.
Yep.
I mean, he's walking. He's swinging at good pitches. But I'm not trying to be the negative Nelly or whatever that term is, okay? But what I am saying is, again, you have to remember who he is facing in these games. You're facing your first at-bat, a guy who's probably going to be in the other team's starting rotation. But he's also out there to pitch 2 innings and start building up arm strength. The rest of the way, depending on the team and when you're playing them, blah, 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 you're seeing some prospects and a lot of suspects is what you're seeing. You're not seeing, let's say, a guy like, even a guy like Wade Miley. I don't know why his name popped into my mind. Somebody wrote my middle name is Wade on here, so maybe that's why he popped into my mind. Is when a guy like that knows your weakness, okay? He doesn't throw the ball through the wall, right? But he's got great location. He changes speeds. Now, all of a sudden, you're facing that kind of guy. Now, some would say, well, Ellie, from the right side, he's going to tear up Wade Miley. Now, he didn't tear up a lot of people from the right side. But you get my point. It isn't in any way, shape, or form being negative. I'm not. I'm just saying what guys do in spring training. It's like, what did you say to me today? What did you say to me today?
About the spring training stuff?
Yeah, who was the one guy you said to me today?
About Ellie De La Cruz?
No. Tyler Stevenson.
Tyler Stevenson is warming up, yeah. He's warming up.
Okay.
He's getting there.
Now, here's the kind of guy that I'm really – to me, he's one of the most fascinating players on the team. This time a year ago, when the Reds were coming off that 100-loss season, the only 2 guys – now, we all knew about De La Cruz and the minors and McLean, all that stuff. But when the season started last year, those guys were not with the big league team. Okay? It took a little while to get them up to the big leagues for various reasons, right? They had not been in AAA. You wanted them to start there, kind of get their feet underneath them, and then eventually bring them to the big leagues, which they did. Going into exactly this time last year, we were talking about the core of this team being the only 2 guys you looked at, position players that they had, that were going to start the regular season with a big league club, that you were looking at as part of the Reds' future. They were Jonathan India and Tyler Stevenson. I'm talking about position players now, okay? They were the only 2 guys we were talking about. We knew, again, about these other guys, but those were the guys. India, leader, had been a Rookie of the Year. Stevenson has shown incredible potential offensively, but it's not happened yet. So when I look at Stevenson, I say to myself, he's not being challenged, really challenged, for the job. I mean, they have Luke Maley around for a reason who does a nice job. Love Maley, one of our favorite guys on the team. Friend of the program, in fact. But Stevenson has now gone through tough times. He did not play well last year. And when I say play, I'm talking about he didn't hit and he wasn't any good behind the plate. He seems like a very likable kid, a very humble young man. So now he has experienced the negative. And when you experience a negative, one of two things happen. You cash it in and shut it down, or you find a way to just keep getting up. What's the story in the Bible? You're knocked down 7 times, you got to keep getting up, right?
Right.
Or phone it in. So I'm going to be really interested in seeing what Stevenson does this coming year, because they need him to be good, especially behind the plate. They need him to be good. But that bat, what a difference it could make if he's able to be the guy that we've seen flashes of. And maybe this spring training right now, he's starting to show us a little bit of that. You're all excited about it.
I'm excited because, I mean, for me, spring training to me is a lot like preseason. There's different types of guys throughout many professional careers where you're expecting something from them, or you want to see something from them, right? They're a prospect or they're a full-on, star.
Right.
Ellie De La Cruz to me is still a prospect, so seeing him perform the way that he is right now makes me feel more comfortable with saying, I should expect this more often from him.
Yep.
Same thing with Tyler Stevenson. He struggled really early, but now he's starting to catch that groove where he's able to really knock the ball out of the park. I think the phrase is knock the cover off the ball. Those are all things I like to see. And maybe it's not that it's going to completely change my opinion about these guys. I still think that they need work to do, right? But it does show me that there is something there, that there's no hope. And that's why I buy the hype, because there's lots of hope there. Tom, moving on from some of the Reds discussion, There's something that just popped up here that's kind of breaking news.
Okay.
Russell Wilson was spotted in Pittsburgh.
Now, is this some rumor or is this legit?
This is legit news.
Are you sure this isn't some clown
This is from
on
Adam.
X
This
who
is
has
from
nothing else to do
This is
today?
from Adam Schefter.
What?
This is from Adam Schefter.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah, this is
All right,
legitimate
never mind.
news. He was spotted in Pittsburgh and apparently is meeting with Steelers officials today. There is rumors that they really want Russell Wilson in the building. That's the rumor, is that they had a really good meeting with Russell and that they want him in the building. What are your thoughts on Russell Wilson going to Pittsburgh? Because I know last year you were really high on Russell Wilson.
I'm still high on Russell Wilson.
He had a good season.
He had a really good
He was
season.
a top 10 quarterback.
Yep.
If he goes to Pittsburgh, is that bad news for Bengals?
I think it's listen, come on now. If anybody in their right mind, okay, watching last year, correct me if I'm wrong, the Steelers beat the Bengals twice last year. True?
That's true.
Okay. Now, they beat them, of course, without Joe Burrow.
That's true.
Okay. So we start with that, all right? And that's here to here. And even though Browning played well, it's here to here, okay? But it's also here to here Russell Wilson and Kenny Pickett.
That's right.
I mean, you can't even debate that. So if you're going into a game against a division rival and you're posed with a question, who would you rather have for your likelihood of winning? Who would you rather have the other team starting at quarterback? Would you rather have Kenny Pickett or would you rather have Russell Wilson? You tell me. If Russell Wilson comes to the AFC North, this is not even remotely close. The best quarterback division in the NFL. Because, look, say what you want about Deshaun Watson, he's going to get better. He's just too talented, okay? And now he's got a year, he did get hurt.
Yeah.
in and out, but he's still Deshaun Watson, and the dude is capable of being unbelievable. We know about Burrow. We know about Lamar. He's the MVP. You bring Wilson into this league. Now, he may not be the Russell Wilson that was in Seattle, but he wasn't surrounded with the same talent in Denver as he was in Seattle.
Right.
He's been to the Pro Bowl, 9 times?
He's been quite a bit.
I mean, wouldn't that worry you a little bit?
It worries me a significant amount. It's not even just that. It's not even just like the talent there at Denver was worse. I wouldn't go that far. I think that they could be very comparable in terms of what the Steelers bring, but the personnel is different to where it fits more the Seattle mold. It fits more of like having really good defense, having a good run game, and you got guys that are like George Pickens that can you can bombs away to the guy and he's going to come down with it.
Yep.
It's very worrisome to me that, and they have this opportunity to completely remold their offense. They were already kind of doing that, right? They fired their offense coordinator midway through their season last year. So now they can bring in a guy that Russell's familiar with and just, really, really have something there that it would be very scary. I mean, you're right. I already feel like the AFC North has the best quarterback class, even with Kenny Pickett. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow are the top 4 in the top 4 quarterbacks in the NFL. Deshaun Watson has that potential to be really, really good. There's no other division that's like that, in my opinion. For the Bengals' perspective, it would get so much more difficult because there's just not a easy game on their schedule. Even with the 4th place schedule, we were talking about this. That's only 3 games that got added to their schedule that was last place. And there's more times than not teams that go from last to second or to first. They completely change it around.
Yep.
So I don't know. This is very worrisome to me. I
just think people who say that they're not worried about Russell Wilson being with the Steelers, I don't know how in the world you can say that with a straight face. I mean, this is Russell Wilson, man. No, he was terrible 2 years ago. But this past year, dude was pretty good. He can still move around. They're the Steelers. We know what their defense is going to look like. We know they're going to run the ball. And now all of a sudden you put Wilson in that kind of an offense. The question would be, and look, I mean, they've been talking about how they're committed to Pickett for the long haul. Well, man, all of a sudden, if you bring in Wilson, and of course the other guy took him to the playoffs last year, Mason Rudolph.
Yeah.
Right? So, I mean, you go from being a number 1 pick in 1 year, you get a chance to start, and then all of a sudden, whoop, you're on the bench. That's the kind of move that champions make. People that are trying to win now. Now, you can say it's stupid. Maybe you don't think Wilson's the right guy, and that's fair. But I pick it. All right, Casey, you got some ad reads here.
I do.
All right, take it away.
All right, the Bengals report and the upcoming Bearcat report is brought to you by Encore Technologies. Encore Technologies provides IT solutions for a data-centered world with a suite of services from mobile computing and desktop to data center, supporting both centralized and work-from-home computing modules to improve efficiency and
productivity.
That's right. Visit encore.tech. The path to innovation begins here. And let me tell you about this lovely bottle of water right here. It's Pawnee Water. Made right here in Hamilton, Ohio. It uses natural limestone filtration, unlike the artificial processing that other brands use. The result? A healthy alkaline water. Visit Pawnee Water at PAHHNIwater.com to see where you can buy this great tasting water. And let me tell you about our new sponsor, Game Time. The Game Time ticketing app is, to me, one of the best ticketing services available. All last year, I was constantly leaving from this office to go straight to a Reds game. And sometimes I would be very spur of the moment, just day of, go get my tickets. And guess what? Game Time was there to help me out. They're always there for me when I need them. They show you your prices all up front. It only is 2 taps and you get your tickets right away. The Game Time app perfect for my situation all last year. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for a $20 off your first purchase deal. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. And it's a guarantee. Get your coffee from UDF, swish it down some Pawnee water. Get your technology solutions from Encore. Get your tickets from the Game Time app. Again, the code is OTB. Lindsay, what are your thoughts on Russell Wilson potentially being your quarterback of the future? Do you like Kenny Pickett, or would you rather find someone else?
I mean, he's okay. I definitely would love to find a better quarterback out there. I think if the Steelers can make it to the playoffs this year with how they were and the record that they had, I think Russell Wilson wouldn't be a negative to the team. I think it would definitely be a positive.
Right.
So I'm for it personally.
Yeah, that's the thing is there's not really a negative to take away. Like the move from Mitch Trubisky, that felt like that could have been a negative, and it ended up being a negative. Mm-hmm. The thing with Russell Wilson is he's shown that he can lost my train of thought there. But Russell Wilson is got a really high floor, right? And a potential for a massive ceiling. We've seen him perform in ways where we thought he could be an MVP. Well, he did perform at an MVP levels multiple times throughout his career. If you can imagine him with that sort of new look offense, it's very, very scary. Now, I've got some super chats to read.
Okay.
I totally forgot about those.
All
so
right.
let me get these all set up here. Sir Boy, nothing matters. Run the old commercials, Casey. Never in your life unless you want them in a Twitter DM. I will send them that way. He also says, buy the hype, Tom.
Of course he does.
Of course he does.
He's our friend.
He's our friend of the program.
Friend of the program. Big
Friend.
time. Since day one.
And then Mark Fetters, $5 donation in Brian B's name.
What's the deal here with Brian? He's taking some heat from some people today. I mean, people saying that he ought to bail or get out or something. Did I read something like that? Or was it somebody else they were on? I thought it was Brian.
Brian B is our biggest baseball fan in the chat.
Yes, I remember that.
I think he's just ready for baseball, right? He's tired of the football talk. We've had that now for about 4 or 5 months. He's tired of the basketball talk. He's ready for Reds baseball.
Okay.
And I think that's what it really boils down to. He really wants to talk Reds baseball. But unfortunately for him, we've got an interview coming up that is not baseball related.
Right.
So you're going to have to wait a little bit, Brian B.
Is he here?
We do have Keegan.
Keegan.
He's
okay.
ready.
Keegan Nickerson. Always nice to see our friend Keegan, friend of the program. How you doing, my man? How's everything going?
I'm doing excellent. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Hey, I want to ask you, it's the final weekend of the college basketball season, okay? We have been riding like you have, like the fan base has, the alumni have, this wave all year long that is UC basketball. I mean, there's highs and then, so many tough losses. I had somebody ask me the other day, how would you put this season, you would describe this season? At the end of the day, let's assume they don't win the Big 12 tournament, which they have a shot to win it, but let's assume they don't. How would you describe this season? Step in the right direction, kind of running in place? What are your thoughts?
It's interesting. I think at the end of the day, where UC finishes is about where a lot of people expected them before the season started. However, I think this team proved that they're better than their record and better than where they will finish. You look at the games against Texas and both games against Oklahoma, West Virginia, Oklahoma State. Those are 5 games that UC kind of had the win in the palm of their hand, and they ended up giving it away. Now, that makes a huge difference. I think with those wins, they're probably comfortably in the field of 68. I'm not sure about the West Virginia Oklahoma State wins, as those two were some of the most disappointing just based off of what the results were supposed to be and beating teams that were lesser than the Bearcats. but they had a lot of opportunities for some quality wins. And I don't think a lot of people would have came into this season thinking that they would beat TCU and Texas Tech on the road and BYU on the road, but they proved that they could do it. And they set the standard for themselves, and that's the standard that Wes Miller wanted them to set. So I think it's a step in the right direction, but it comes with a really sour taste in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
They have work to do with getting a scoring guard out of the portal. But in terms of, continuing to develop guys like Jizzle James and Dan Skillions who are going to continue taking steps in the right direction, I think UC is in a good spot. I don't think I see a lot of portal exits at all for this team. I think he's going to bring back a really solid group to build on, and they should be better next year. But the intangible parts of finishing games and making the necessary plays down the stretch to be one or two possessions better than some teams in Big 12 play is something that I don't know if it's a talent or shot making thing. I think that's really, really an attitude thing.
Yeah, I think you bring up I think you summarized this season perfectly there, because I've watched nearly every game, and I mean, I root like crazy for them, but when you see the same way games get away, and I mean, the Exhibit A was a game the other night against Oklahoma. I mean, you got the big lead, you can't put your foot on their throat. Next thing you know, they win the game in overtime. But, a lot of people always are going to ask the question in any sport about the coach. Now, my understanding is the people at UC that matter, they love Wes Miller. They love what he's doing down there. Is that accurate?
Yeah, they do. And he was dealt a really bad hand with how the former coaching staff, handed him this team. And I think with what he's been able to do has been pretty impressive. But a lot of people and a lot of fans, they just can't get over how close this team was to an NCAA tournament appearance. Their first one in a long time. And obviously, like we saw with football last season, when things go bad and when the pitchforks are out, the first thing people go at is the coach, because that's the common thread. But Wes Miller, I mean, he's good this year and he's good for next year, even if he misses the NCAA tournament. If he were to miss next year, I think that's when the questions start going into the 2026 season. But with his buyout right now and with how he kind of stuck up for those players going through the transfer waiver things, sticking with his guys through injuries and stuff. I think Wes Miller's the guy right now. The administration believes that. A lot of fans believe it. I know a lot of people might not believe that with how loud all the negative people are, which I completely understand the frustration. But Wes Miller's done a good job so far with what he's had. I think this team with the talent on the roster, a lot of people were expecting them to make the tournament, especially in such a deep conference that gives you a lot of opportunities, but it just looks like it's not going to be the case.
I look at next year, Keegan, and I say to him, because I don't know why, but I should have known this, but I did not realize till recently that both Reynolds and Bandego can come back next year, right? Mm-hmm. So can Lockett. He can come back next year. And we know what's going on with his season. They got guys like Rayvon Griffiths sitting over there on the bench all year long, who's going to have a redshirt year. They have Day Thomas coming back. They have Jizzle James coming back. They do lose Newman, who I believe is really the heart and soul of the team. But, I sit there and I say to myself, looking ahead to next year, you brought up about a scoring two guard, right? So say a guy like Sule Boom, right? If you're able to get a guy like him come in here next year, now you're going to have to replace Newman and his toughness and his defense and his scoring and that kind of thing. Somebody's got to step into that role. But, I mean, they're this close. A lot like a lot of their games this year. They're this close. At least that's my opinion. You agree, and you think all those guys are coming back, or you think some of them are leaving?
I think the majority of those guys are going to come back. Wes Miller, he was actually asked the question at his radio show last night. A fan asked, what's the deal with retaining players? Because the transfer portal is the reality now. Like, how do you go about it? He kind of said he doesn't do it directly. He doesn't do weekly check-ins going through the season going, are you going to transfer? Are you leaving? Are you getting offered money? That kind of thing. He he takes it to challenge his guys in practice every day, to build competitiveness, and then see how those guys respond to that competitive nature. And he thinks he has the right group for that right now. And a lot of these guys love playing for Coach West, and he challenges them weekly, even daily. So I think the majority of those guys are coming back. I think the loss of John Newman is going to be more significant than a lot of people think. You can't find a guy like John Newman out of the portal. Those guys with that attitude, with that defensive mentality, those guys are built through the program. And he transferred in from Clemson, knew Wes Miller his entire life. So he knew what he was coming into, and he took a lot of pride in playing for Miller in Cincinnati. But guys like Day Thomas, the second-year jump for JUCO guards is huge. He's a great defender. Josh Reed has shown the ability to defend. But that combo scoring guard that you brought up, that Chad's brought up all season, that I'm starting to realize is the answer, that's going to be huge for them to get. When you see what CJ Frederick was doing before he got hurt, how a scorer like that spaces the floor, a knockdown three-point shooter, I think Wes Miller is going to look back in this season and just say, if we could have just had him healthy, a lot of stuff would have been different. Seamus Lukosius would have had better stretches without having all the pressure of being the only pure scorer on the lineup in a lot of times in games. So it's a really, really important portal season, and Wes Miller knows that. He doesn't take the criticism or the pressure in a negative light. He knows the expectations are high, and that's what it should be for Cincinnati.
All right, last thing I want to ask you about, because this is another thing, and we taped an extended interview yesterday with Justin Williams. It is coming up right after the conclusion of Off the Bench today. And I would invite a lot of people to check it out, because I basically approached the interview as, let's walk through things 101. NIL, college football playoff, 12 to 14 teams. Some of these topics, so again, that's coming up at noon at the conclusion of this show. But the conversation made me think of something, and I'm curious, your thoughts on this. Basically, we've already hit free agency, okay, in the portal. Guys have already announced they're going. And so there are stories, and I've only heard it applied to Xavier, not as much for UC, but you might know this, you might not know this, that for a lot of teams, they're not going to accept a bid to the NIT. They're not going to do it because they want the coaches to get on right now, trying to get a head start on going out and recruiting some of these potential players in the portal. Is that the case with UC? And if they're invited to the NIT, do you think they'll play in it?
I think that they will play in it, and that's just based off the fact that they played in it last season. This is kind of interesting, but if they hadn't played in the NIT last season, they might not have Aziz Bandego on the roster right now. That's not
great.
That's kind of an unorthodox way to go at your portal recruiting. But Wes Miller always said when he was scouting the game, I think Colorado was playing Utah Valley, and he was scouting that game, and he just realized, who's this guy playing Colorado who's 7 foot and can jump out of the gym? So that's when it hit his head to recruit Aziz Bandego when he entered the portal. They went after him harder than anyone because Wes had that first-person view of seeing how good Aziz Bandego was. So it's not like playing in the NIT is just a negative and just a setback for going into the portal, especially when you don't have to bring in, I think they brought in 4 portal players last season. So they had to be really aggressive, and the fact that they played in the NIT and still were able to have that success is a testament to Miller and his staff. But I think Cincinnati's going after one thing in the portal, and it's really just a combo scoring guard, which is hard to come by. But I think the fan engagement of the NIT last season was awesome. There was only positive things about that, and the fight that they showed against Utah Valley and against teams that they played in the NIT was massive. So I think this isn't based off any inside information, just the fact that they played in it last season and the positive things that came out of that. I think that they would take a bid to the NIT, especially since they would host a lot of games. Last year they were resurfacing the floor, and they had to play away games that would have been home. So I think it would be a benefit to the program to take that bid if they were given the opportunity.
All right, Keegan, we thank you so much for your insight. It's always great having you on the program, and I hope you have a great weekend. Enjoy the season finale tomorrow. Are you headed to the Big 12 tournament, yay or nay?
Yes, I will be there. They're right on the edge of being an 11 or a 10 seed. So this Saturday, if they take care of business against West Virginia, and then if some chips can fall in their direction with how they should, based off which teams are playing who, they should be a 10 seed playing on Thursday. But if they're an 11 playing a 14, they'll play on Wednesday.
Okay, well, let's hope it all falls their way and it's Thursday, because in that way you only have to win 4 games instead of 5, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I get to stay less nights in the hotel. So
there you go. Amen to that. All right. Great seeing you, man. Keegan, have a good weekend.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate it.
Great to have Keegan Nickerson from Bearcat Journal. Guys on his game. They both are over there. Keegan and Chad Brendel. Always like getting their takes on things. I guess while we've been away, there are a couple topics I want to get at. I'm going to save one of them for the end of the show. And it has to do with drinking high noons.
Okay.
That's the first sound we've heard from Lindsay all day today.
That is not the first sound.
That's the first sound.
She had her take on
She didn't deliver
Russell's.
on 10A, 12P.
Well, they didn't force me to do that this whole week, so I wasn't used to it, but I got it.
So Trace doesn't do that, huh?
Well, he does it. I don't think he forces her to participate, though.
Yeah,
well, she's not in here
either.
either.
I'm not in here when Trace does it.
See, I am an all-inclusive kind of a guy. Anybody who's in here in the studio, they have a right to be here. They're working. So if Lindsay has something she'd like to say, but, you know, Lindsay, before you came for your internship here, you know, I would always call Ohio University the place where they drink beer, okay? And Miami, that sort of highbrow crowd up there at Miami, snooty, little on the, you know what I'm talking. Everybody knows what I'm talking about, you know.
Yeah.
Right, the button downs and the pink shorts on the dudes and the green shorts and all that kind of stuff. That they are the Miami high nooners. That they're not beer drinkers. They are high nooners. Now, you are at the University of Cincinnati.
Yes.
Which, for me, again, is an everyman's kind of school. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
You've got, you know, the rich, preppy, you know, crowd, but then you've got the crowd that, you know, they got the student loan thing going and they're grinding and they're working while they're doing it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you got everything in between.
Yeah.
Okay, at a big, major public university. And Miami's public too. But it's not like OU or UC. It's not. It's just simply not. But everybody in here apparently is reacting. I must have missed. You were asked about drinking high noon. So let's sit on that thought until the final 8 or 10 minutes of the show.
Okay.
I don't like what I think I read.
I don't think you're going to like it
but
either,
I
Tom.
give women a little bit of rope on this one rather than the dudes. Because if there's a dude, we're not waiting until 10 minutes left in the show. There's a dude who's sipping on the high nooners. Go hang out in Oxford tonight. Brick Street. Watch OU kick their tail, and then you can go drink high noon with all your buddies.
It's currently where Reed Mouse is. He's over at the
well, he
Nooners.
mixes well with that crowd. Private school guy.
Yeah, private school guy.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how's the show going? I'm curious, the guys in the chat here today, and we've got everybody from Nothing Matters to AJ, Steve, our buddy from Chicago.
Nothing Matters is Sir Boy.
Steve says that OU's going to get crushed tonight. Give me a break. Although I got to give it up to Travis Steele. They've had a nice year.
Yeah.
They're one game over 500. They're one under in the MAC. They're going to be like a 7 or 8 seed in the MAC tournament. He's done a nice job up there this year. He really has. We've got Nate. We've got Yash. Kyle Bowling. Kyle wants to know what is a high noon. Alex Wallace. Alex Gatto. All of our buddies. Mark Fetters. Everybody's here today. Right? Michael Ackley. How is a show going with, and our guy, Sir Boy, how are things going with Trace? Because I like what I see with Trace. I think he's better at this show than I am. And I'm not sitting here begging for compliments or asking for that kind of critique. I'm not. But I think he's really good on this show.
I think Trace is really good on this show, too. I think he does a really good job of coming in with a topic that he's super passionate about and brings in all the information and has all the perspective of that situation down.
Yes, he does.
And he does dig in his heels on his takes, but he does his research on those takes. He's a really good debater as well. So that makes him really good at this show.
Okay, Mark is the ultimate good. I like Mark's answer. He says, we both do fine. So that's good. That's good. Okay. Well, I'm really happy because I think Trace has done a great job, and all you guys have done a great job. And we're working with a skeleton crew here. And we're going to get to the guys out in Colorado here in a few minutes. Trace and Elliot and Nick Kirby and the two videographers. Are they college students or are they out of college?
Do
we know this?
One of them is very young. I know one of them is very, very young. The other one I think is older, probably graduated. But I would say, college student age, maybe post that as well. I'm not sure which one is which, but they were probably my age, I would say. Probably my age.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, look, we're going to catch up with those guys here in just a few minutes. A couple of other pieces of news that have come down the pike here. I guess the New England Patriots, right?
Yep. They just signed Hunter Henry to a 3-year, $27 million deal. Can be escalated to $30 million based off incentives. And that means that the tight end market is just getting smaller and smaller. It did get a bit of a boost with C.J. Uzomah and Hayden Hurst both getting cut. That would be interesting to see if the Bengals get those guys back.
See, that's an interesting topic, Casey, and because I heard a little bit of this talk yesterday when you guys were doing the show. You know, we have such a great affinity, and maybe a lot of towns are like this, but I think Cincinnati maybe a little more so than most, where we have this constant nostalgia for wanting the guys who were here before. And I have no problem. If the Bengals want to bring back Hayden Hurst, great. He played really well here. Uzomah played very well here. Very highly respected, both of them, especially Uzomah. Leader in the locker room and all that kind of thing. But, I mean, you know, you're what will be a third season removed from Uzomah. You will be a second season removed from Hurst. Okay, and they all talk about as guys get older and, you know, their production and so on and so forth. Not true with everybody, but with most. I mean, would you want them to go out and bring one of those guys back? Are you in that sort of nostalgia camp?
No, I'm not in that camp at all. To be honest with you, Tom, and this is probably going to make fans upset because I know we've been clamoring to get an answer at tight end for years at this point, ever since Uzomah left.
Yep.
I think they just bring back Drew Sample and Tanner Hudson and go with that again, to be honest with you. It was working pretty well for half the season as soon as they elevated Tanner Hudson.
Yep.
You'd be surprised. You go look at Tanner Hudson and the yards that he accumulated over that season.
Job.
He did a really good job, Tom.
Yep.
I think that is a underrated hire. Wherever he goes, that's an underrated signing for someone. I think, too, like, I don't even think really the Bengals should go and get Brock Bowers. I'm not in that camp either. There's too many holes to fill that are way more important
especially
than the
defense.
tight end, especially on defense. Now, I'm not opposed to getting a guy in like day 2 or day 3. That's fine. You go get a guy that might help supplement those two for the future. But in terms of spending the money in free agency, I don't think that's a smart decision, especially because you're going to have to figure out if you lose DJ Reader, there is a massive hole at defensive tackle that just we don't even really truly comprehend what that hole brings to the Bengals because it completely changes the scheme of what they do. No question. So for me, I'm not really looking at tight end in free agency. I'm looking at day 2, day 3 for the Bengals. I know you mentioned at the top of the show, maybe they're looking at the safety position.
Well, they're definitely looking at the safety position.
I was just listening to Dan Horde the other day, And he said, and I trust what Dan Horde says
Sure.
because he's got close ears. He said that they are looking at the safety position.
Yeah.
And maybe getting a guy that can potentially start. Because I guess Lou Anarumo's scheme really deploys the 3 safety look where that third safety is really that extra linebacker that can play in the slot, can come down in the box, which is exactly what Dak Still is really good at. He's really good at covering tight ends. So,
But it speaks volumes as
Yeah.
to what they think about Hill.
yeah, he's not
Right now he has plenty of time. He's only going to be his 3rd year in the league. He has plenty of time to get it turned around. The NFL has been littered with guys, especially cornerbacks, but safeties too, that come into the league. It's a whole different ball game. They're slow to get going. They go into a backup role, and then the next thing you know, they become a starter again. They learn a lot, and they become a heck of a player. And we know that Hill has unbelievable tools. Incredible. Fast, can hit, right? He's got a lot of good things going for him. But apparently communication was a big issue. So, it looks like they're going to bring Nick Scott back just in a backup role. Nobody has a problem with that. If he's in a backup role, good special teams player, nobody's going to lose any sleep over that. But there are so many safeties. I mean, whether it's Poyer, it's Simmons. You go on and on and on. Jenkins. I mean, all these guys, all of a sudden are out on the open market. And this is what I say all the time, and many of you have been begging me to ask this question. And I'm not going to ask it yet.
Oh, come on.
I'm going to wait until the end of free agency. Because for me, and you've heard me say this before, for me, there was a time in this town, and a lot of the younger fans, you don't remember this. But those of us that have been around a while, we remember all the things they used to say about ownership in this town until Joe Burrow came along. And even that offseason before they got Burrow, when they went out and spent all that money in free agency on the defense, getting guys like Hendrickson and Reeder and Von Bell and all these kinds of guys. Okay, that's really where this thing started, where people have started to believe in the ownership of the Bengals after really going 25 years, at least, where ownership took a beating from the public at large, fans, press, whatever it was, okay? Now they've had a nice little 3-4 year run here. But this is the offseason of all offseasons, where, in my opinion, we are going to find out how badly the Bengals want to win. They have been grossly under the salary cap, even these last 2 or 3 years when they had a legitimate chance for a Super Bowl win. And they still did not spend what they had. And I don't care what the reason is. The bottom line is they were sitting on money that they could have spent on a player or two that may or may not have made a difference in getting to the playoffs, even without Burrow. This winter, summer, we're going to find out. Because the salary cap has made another enormous jump. What, 255, I think?
That's correct.
Million? Okay. Now all of a sudden, if I've read correctly, they are in the neighborhood of 52 to 54 million under the cap.
Yes.
As we sit here today.
Close to that.
And that's with Burrow signed.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to find out. And look, I am actually confident that they're going to go spend the money. But if they don't, I tell you, I'd have a hard time going to watch them. You can be the most diehard fan in the world. But I always fall back on the thing, why should I care if they're telling me they don't care? And fans don't want to hear that. They don't want to look in the mirror and say that to themselves. Because it's fun to go down on a Sunday and tailgate and go to the games and Burrow and Chase and all this great stuff, and all of those things are true. But if they walk into next season on Labor Day weekend, when the NFL season, the weekend after Labor Day weekend, when the season kicks off, and they're 10, 15, 18, 20, $25 million under the cap, they're not trying to win.
Yeah.
So you don't even like hearing that. You get upset.
No. I mean, it's not that I'm getting upset with what you're saying. It's just the truth. I mean, I don't understand why the Bengals constantly roll over the $10 million every single year. And I get they want to save some money for free agents, but at some point, you got to trust what your depth is. You got to trust that you got guys on your practice squad that can fill in on those roles, because that's what the really good teams do.
Yep.
They spend in the cap. They have a good enough practice squad where they have a guy that goes down, they just call up the practice squad guy, or they have maybe a tiny bit of money, like $2 to $3 million, to go get a guy that's league minimum at best and fill in that depth role. Here, as of late, we've realized that the Bengals don't have great depth. I mean, clearly, when they lost DJ Reader, that defensive line was atrocious.
But they gave up more explosive plays than any team in the league.
Right. I mean, they let Jesse Bates walk, and that safety room was also atrocious. I mean,
Von Bell.
Yeah, I mean, it just all together. If they do not spend to the cap this year, I'm kind of with you, Tom. I'm tired of this nonsense that we don't spend to the cap, or we tell people that we're spending the cap. We're really not. And this year in particular, they've already made the move that seems like it's an all-in move with T. Higgins, because they didn't give him the contract extension. This is like a one more year, let it ride to see what we got sort of deal here. And if you don't trade him, right, like I'm assuming this is based off of them not trading him. There's still potential. There's still a chance they trade T.
Yeah.
But they don't trade T. You are strapping yourself of what you potentially could build in a roster with that extra $20 million, right? So to me, they're already in all-in mode. So go all in. Go all in. Spend to the cap. If you lose a guy, you already laid your bed. You already went all in on getting T for one more year. You're going to be able to sign Chase. You're going to be able to keep those guys after next season because you don't have to worry about T. Higgins anymore. So for me, I think it's simple. I think you go all in, you spend in the cap. You go get the high-touted right tackle Michael Winu. You go get maybe Jeffrey Simmons and supplement that safety room for 1 year. And that's the thing, too, is like they can give some of these guys, especially at the safety position because of how stacked it is this year, 1 year deals. And that's still an all-in move, in my opinion.
No question about it.
Same thing with edge rushers.
Overpay them for 1 year.
Yeah, basically.
If they'll take the deal. And the landscape is just it's so fascinating with the safety position, because here in this town, I think you could have made the argument that the Bengals had one of the top 2 or 3 safety duos in the NFL with Bell and Bates. Right?
Right.
I mean, those two guys together were really good. Really good. Gamers, tough, played, healthy, thank God. Put a hat on people. And yet they go into an offseason before last year and they let both of them walk out the door. What were the words Anarumo said before that happened? He said, my worst nightmare is if Bates and Von Bell both leave. Well, that nightmare, unfortunately for him, came true. The rest of us had to deal with a nightmare of watching that defense be one of the worst in the league. 0 pass rush outside of Hendrickson. None. NUN, none. And gave up the most explosive plays. It's 10 or more yards rushing, 20 or more yards passing. Of all defenses in the National Football League. You ain't getting to the playoffs, and you certainly aren't winning more than one playoff game if you happen to stumble into outscoring everybody. You give up the most explosives in the league, no chance to win a Super Bowl. None. All right, who is going to join us from wherever it is they are?
I believe it's Nick. I'm just double checking to see if he's ready to go. Looks like he's ready to go. So give me 1 second, Tom.
Okay. All right. So we're for those of you that don't know, and I know most of you who are on the show, USA veteran. Great to have you back, my friend. Thank you for your service. Okay, so you've got Nick Kirby, you got Trace Fowler, you've got Elliott Rearing, and the two young videographers they brought around. And they are driving from Cincinnati. Already they've made it to Denver after a stop at Allen Fieldhouse. They went to an NHL game 2 nights ago, went to the NBA Nuggets v. Celtics last night. And today it looks like they're getting ready to make their way 13 and a half hours worth. Of course, that depends on who's driving. Gentlemen, how we doing?
Doing well. We're about to leave the Airbnb in Denver. I'll take you outside, show you the lovely snow if Trace can get the door.
Love it.
Make
That looks like a big league place you guys rented there, man. I mean, that's not like some dump.
Yeah, no, it's a big league. We got a little snow action going on here. About to drive through the mountains, so we're going to see how that goes.
Those are some big flakes.
Man, how's the experience? You know, you guys are putting all the happy stuff on the air. Looks like he's freezing up a little bit. Maybe he needs to get big. Nick, what's it really like in the van? I mean, does it smell? Is it, you know, like crowded? Is it suffocating? Or is it okay?
Well, it's been okay. Our cameraman Jeremiah is eating a Philly cheesesteak. So
nice.
The smell ratio might go up significantly here in a minute. Overall, it's been good. This is the first time we've had got a little bit of tracking action going through the video. So that might throw a wrench in things, but so far so good.
Okay, what's been the best? I know you do.
So.
I know. I brought that up at the beginning. People don't realize the land mass of those states out there. I mean, that's a border state. You're driving from Denver to Phoenix, and yet it's going to take you almost as much time as it did driving from Cincinnati to Denver. Listen, what's been the highlight for you of the trip so far? In all seriousness, what's been the best thing so far?
Well, Fog Allen is probably the answer. But I got to be honest, the Colorado Avalanche hockey game was electric. I've never been to an NHL game before. They had an unbelievable atmosphere. They're playing the Red Wings, which I'm not a hockey expert, but I was told they are the New York Yankees of hockey. So there's a lot of, Red Wings suck chants going throughout the arena, which is fun. Awesome environment.
All right, okay, so that's for you. What's been the behavior like for Elliott? Because I really can't tell with some of your videos. I think a lot of people in the chat are a little worried about him.
I'd put him on a 6 out of 10. It's really a roller coaster. There's some days where, my God, this man is the most happy person on the planet, and there's other days the vibes are really low and you have to pick him up. But the one thing with Elliott, he always rallies. He always finds a way to pull through. You just have to kind of, massage him through some of the lows.
Yeah, I actually can see that. I can see that when he comes in here on a daily basis, where you get a little bit of, a lot of the good, and when the light comes on, he's ready to go. But, man, there's some dark there, too. Well, what about Trace? I mean, he's the boss. So it's probably kind of weird, you're riding around with a boss. Or is it weird you're riding around with a boss?
Oh, did we lose them?
I think we lost him.
They just started getting on the road, so it might just take a second.
Okay. All right. We'll see what happens.
We'll come back if he joins back in.
Everybody in the chat wants me to talk to Jeremiah. Why?
I don't know. I have not watched the latest vlogs, so I wouldn't know. I'll have to double check. It looks like Kirby just came back, so let me pop him on. Okay. All right, Nick, back to the thing. Is it weird riding around with a boss or not really?
No. I'm not sure how much you heard. I had a whole spiel, and I don't think I could replicate it, but I'll try again.
Okay.
No, Trace is here to antagonize and create content. So, really, it felt like by the time we got to, Illinois, it was like, yeah, you don't really worry about that whole boss to employee relationship. But that's good. He's driving. He got a wonderful elite night of sleep, so I think the vibes are high for Sir Fowler. So, we'll see how this day goes.
You know, Nick, I made the comment at the beginning of the show because people have asked me about it, and a lot of people paying attention to what you guys are doing here at Chatterbox Sports and driving across the country and getting to spring training, good Lord willing, later tonight. I mean, this is like a dude's dream, right? I mean, you're going to Fog Allen Fieldhouse, you're going to NHL games, you're going to an NBA game, you're going to baseball spring training games. I mean, this has got to be like a dude's ultimate trip.
Yeah, I mean, we were at the Nuggets game last night, and I just walked around the arena, both levels, just because I'm like, I'm never going to get back to Denver to watch a Nuggets game or I guess an Avalanche game also. I don't know, Avalanche, they're up there. But yeah, no, I mean, it's been incredible. It feels like we've already been on the road for 2 weeks, and I think we still got like a week and a half to go. So, yeah, it's been pretty cool. I can't wait to see the Grand Canyon. I think that's going to be, Lord willing, we get there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's a must stop. Weather could be a little shaky depending on where you're going around there, but be careful. When do you plan on seeing your first spring training game? Tomorrow?
I think next Tuesday against the Rangers. There's Elliot for those.
Elliot, how we doing?
Wondering about his.
I'm good here. I got a question for Thom real quick. Hey,
did you see? I got a question for you first. First of all, it's nice to see you. Secondly, my dad is very much anticipating your arrival in Goodyear.
Yeah. Do we know when he's going to be there? Because we are taking a trip to the Grand Canyon immediately right now. That's where we're going. And then from the Grand Canyon, I believe we are going then straight to Goodyear.
So when are you planning on being in Goodyear?
We will be in Goodyear. What day is that on the 100% on the 12th? 100% on the 12th. Maybe earlier.
Ooh. I don't know. The 12th, that's Sunday, right? Or Monday?
Yeah, I think it is.
That's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
All right. Well, I don't know if he's going to be there that long. He might be, but he must be because he acknowledged it the other day that when it was brought up that you were going to be there, so he was going to look in. So what's on your mind?
No, well, nothing's on my mind. We're up early this morning, and again, by the way, the time changes is a little bit different. So it's whatever 9:30 for us, 11:30 for you. That's always wild to me. It's never registered that there's different time codes in America where I can just be in Arizona and just be in a completely different world than where you guys are in right now. But that's fun. Outside of that, I think Nick pretty much said everything. The vibes are high right now. In the short term, as we drive through the mountains, I think that the vibes will get lower. As certainly as I was driving this van down the mountain yesterday, we were in the Rocky Mountains, I was driving it down, and there was a lot. Tom, I don't know how your family does it, but there's a lot of backseat driving in here, a lot of backseat driving. So I'm going down the mountain about 10 miles an hour, and I'm still getting told to slow down. That's really when like Nick said, Elliot's vibes are sometimes low. That's when they're low. I'm getting picked on and bullied.
I don't blame you. I mean, my wife does it to me all the time. Oh, you're driving too fast. We're doing good. Yeah. We're good. But nothing could be worse than getting screamed at if you're driving 10 miles an hour. You're driving too fast. Casey, you had something for Elliot.
Yeah. We have a super chat, Elliot. Hey, how you doing, Elliot? How's it going?
Hey, Casey Rue.
We have a super chat from Drew Garrison here. I don't know if you can read this or not. Let me put it up on screen. $5 super chat.
Oh,
Elliot,
my God.
Did you go into the adult store next to the Waffle House? I know that everyone wants to know if you made an appearance in that store.
What are you guys talking about? Was there an adult store?
Yeah, right outside the Waffle House.
I don't remember that. I just remember the waffles. If there was an adult store and I don't remember it, I would say this: it probably wouldn't open until like 3 p.m. when the real weirdos come to play. I was the store, so I didn't get to experience any madness in that store, if it still exists. I don't really remember it, but no, I did not get into that store.
Okay, good. Did you have by chance a waffle steak? Did you order one of those?
I did not order a waffle steak.
I'm telling you right now. That is the must order at any Waffle House is you have to get a waffle steak. It's a waffle.
Is that like chicken and waffles?
Yes, it is. Yeah, exactly right. So the next time you guys stop at one of those, by the way, did you like it? It was your first time, right?
It was great. It was great. I had a fun time.
No, but was the food good?
Oh, well, it was, no, not really. But, I mean, you go into a Waffle House, you're probably going to get what you expect.
Okay. Do you miss Hamilton before we let you go? Are you missing Hamilton at all?
I'm glad you asked. Because there's been some points on this trip where I've thought of Hamilton. I've seen a couple guys with shopping carts wandering the streets. And I said, you know what? That's Hamilton. I haven't seen anybody with lawnmowers yet, and I haven't been shot yet. So those are the real two big connectors. If I get shot on the trip, I'll let you know, and then we'll really connect the dots. But no, I do miss Hamilton. It's my second home.
Okay. All right. Well, guys, be careful. We love you. We're thinking about you, praying for be careful and have a great time. I think a lot of people are wondering if today's only the 8th, why is it you guys are not going to be at a Reds game until the 12th?
So if today's the 8th, we are driving then to, and I believe this is the itinerary as of now. We're driving to the Grand Canyon today.
Yeah.
We will then park, get a hotel, stay in the Grand Canyon to a point where we can see some of it tomorrow.
Okay.
Oh.
So do we lose me?
No, you're good. You're good. You'll see some of it tomorrow.
So then we're driving to Phoenix. We're picking up. I don't know if I can say his name on the show. Greg. We're going to that, and then we're going to a NASCAR race in Phoenix.
Ooh.
Thanks,
Okay.
Jolly Jolly's helping us out with that.
Yep.
And from there, then we go to spring training. After that, after the Grand Canyon and Phoenix.
Okay. All right. And everybody is yelling at me here in the chat saying that, Tom, you need to meet Jeremiah. Why would that be true?
Jeremiah, would you like to say hi to Thom Brennaman?
Yeah. Hello, Tom.
Jeremiah, how you doing, man? Everybody is talking about you in the chat like you're the GOAT. How has all this happened?
Well, some would say I am, in fact, the GOAT. However, when it comes to Chatterbox, I'm not quite sure. I hopped on the pod, and, I filled in for Elliot. He, for some reason, can't handle bumps in the road, so he had to hop off the pod. So, Oh, and by the way, while I'm here, I always tend to add the plug. I want everybody who's in the chat, download Game Time, code CBOX, CBOX, $20 off your first purchase, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, that's why you're there, our friends from Game Time. So we got to pub it. Again, download Game Time, the app, and use the code CBOX, and it'll make these guys trip a lot better. So, fellas, Godspeed ahead. Jeremiah, nice to meet you. Boys, we'll catch you next week.
See you, Tom. God bless, buddy.
You too, man. Now, that looks like it's fun.
That looks like a fun trip, Tom.
All right. Lindsay, do you find Jeremiah somewhat attractive?
I don't know.
Let's put you on the spot.
No, seriously. I look at a dude like that as one dude can say about another, and I think to myself, man, I wish I looked like that dude. He's got the hair going, right? Mine's turning gray or falling out. There was a time in my life I may have resembled a little bit, but not like that. That's a handsome young man. He appears to be very close to your age, Lindsay. Did you even notice him, or am I stepping out of the box here?
I saw him just there on the video, but then I saw him filling in for Elliot on that when Elliot got a little sick on the trip. But yeah, he looks nice.
Seems like a
nice guy.
Seems like a real man can handle bumps. I don't know. I don't know, Tom.
Well, a lot of people kept saying, Tom, you got to meet this guy in the chat, and I'm glad we did. Drew Garrison is now saying, Tom, you're playing matchmaker. I'm not. He's clean shaven. He's got a great head of hair. He obviously can speak very well. He's smart, right?
Talent,
charming.
Smart?
What?
Do you know he's smart?
Well, I can just tell right there just by his quick little shtick. Because you know what he does? You know what a guy like him does? And I'm being very serious about this for a second. A guy like that, who they basically just met before they went on this trip, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What's the first thing he does? Hey, Tom, how you doing, man? How everything's good? Yeah, having a good time? Hey, don't forget, Game Time, C-Box. Now, that's a dude that gets it.
Company man already. He's not even with the company. He's a company man.
But I'm saying he's smart enough to understand this is the way the game is played. He hasn't been able to do all of this cool stuff were it not for Chatterbox and now Game Time, right?
That's right.
So it's interesting how first impressions, they're not always 100%, okay? But you can realize in a hurry a guy or woman that just get it. Like Lindsay, you get it.
I appreciate that.
You do. You get it.
I'm glad.
But see, you needed to play up this is he attractive kind of thing a little more. You needed to build that up a little. If for no other reason to get all the guys in the chat all fired up.
Oh, Thom.
Well, is he?
Are you
on
getting
the
married
list?
or anything like that anytime soon, Lindsay? Not in that kind of situation right now.
On that end,
okay,
no.
all right. What were you saying, Casey?
I was gonna say you ranked all of us early on, me, Reid, and Elliot, and Elliot was at the bottom. Would Jeremiah be?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, would Jeremiah be above Elliot on your list?
I don't know who Jeremiah is, so I would not rank Jeremiah.
But you know Elliot, so
I know
you can
Elliot.
rank Elliot. You ranked him at the bottom.
Everyone. Everyone's number one at this company.
Oh,
everyone.
my God.
Everyone. Love everyone.
Mr. Mo says Lindsay is about to pass out. Nate says Lindsay is uncomfy. Mark says Jeremiah's got good energy. You're right. Rocky M says, come on, Lindsay, admit it. Nothing matters says Lindsay's very uncomfortable. Would you describe yourself right now as being uncomfortable?
I don't know. I really thought you were going to ask me if I thought he was attractive. I don't know what it was, but I really was ready for you to ask me. So
You were?
I don't know what. I just thought you were going to ask me. I don't know. And you did.
Okay. All right. Well, Mark Fetter says, Lindsay, the politician answer. Those guys look like they're having fun to me.
They do look like they're having fun. I think that's a good group of guys. For them just meeting, like you had just mentioned before.
Meeting the two young guys.
Yeah, meeting the two young
Are they
videographers.
both videographers? Is that the deal?
Yes.
Okay,
I do think so.
okay.
But that looks like a good time, good group of guys. I think they're having a lot of fun. And maybe next
knows?
year we'll all get to go. Maybe.
Now,
But it
is there
only
some
happens.
deal on the my understanding was, if I heard this right, maybe this has changed. And CJ says, Thom, have you been on that type of road trip before? I've been on that kind of road trip where you're stopping at a bunch of sports stuff. But like our son is getting ready to go to Fort Lauderdale for spring break.
Yeah.
Okay, now this is a difference between parenting in this day and age and parenting when I was 18. Maybe many of you remember this. Man, when I was a junior in high school, we had like 14 guys from Anderson High School where we loaded up 5 cars and we got 2 hotel rooms that had 4 beds in it. And we all went down, and junior year went to Daytona Beach. Unbelievable spring break, unbelievable. And then senior year went down to Lauderdale. Back in those days, the drinking age was 18. And if people think that Lauderdale is wild now, no. Because you're bringing in many, many more people when the drinking age was 18. Now that's a road trip. Not some NHL game or NBA game. That's real life game.
That's right.
Or maybe it's not real life. Maybe it's just one big, huge fantasy. But
before we wrap up the show, Thom, I opened up the phone lines for the last couple minutes in case anyone wants to call in and chat about whatever we talked about today.
Yeah.
Bengals, Bearcats, Reds, whether or not Jeremiah's attractive or not. Just call in and we'll talk for the last couple minutes before we wrap up the show. And remember, again, for this show, the Game Time app code is OTB.
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 Yes.
That will help this show out. If you want to go help out the other shows, you can do Reds, I believe, REDS, I think is the other code, and CBOX, which is the road trip code, CBOX.
Okay.
So.
All right. Okay. Okay. A lot of you guys wishing Luke safe travels. Believe me, I'm with my wife. morning, noon, and night. She is losing her mind about her little boy going to Fort Lauderdale. I am too, I have to admit. The real spirit cat, my buddy. I love that guy. I miss that guy. I used to walk around watching my son play with his son play golf for the high school team. His son at Reading.
Yep.
And our son at Marymount. And I'd always walk around. It seemed like Luke was always in the same group as his son. Sweet kid. Could hit the ball a mile. So I miss seeing you, real spirit cat. Hope you're doing well. Hope he's doing well and your family's doing well. Okay. Anything on your mind at all before we wrap this up today? Either one of you. Lindsay, please chime in. This is more than you've talked on this show in months.
For the last week or so, since all the guys have been out, we've been doing a little segment. Maybe I'm putting you on the spot. Not like we've already not put you on the spot today, Lindsay. But
oh, here we go. A little more. I love it.
Do you have anything to share with us that a 22-year-old female in college would like to share that's relevant to today's social media?
Well, next week is Cincinnati spring break, so I will be going on spring break. I was wondering, what are your guys' top vacation spots? Where do you guys like to go?
Well, where are you going, if you don't mind?
I'm going to Marco Island. It's
below
Naples.
Man, that place is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you going down there with?
Marco Island. My family.
Oh, you'll have a great time. We've gone down there the week after Christmas for the last 12 years.
We went the week before Christmas.
Yeah,
That's
so
what
you
we're
know all
doing.
about it.
Mm-hmm.
Great. The weather should be fantastic.
Right now, cross our fingers, it looks really nice, but we'll see.
Good. Okay, so you're not having one of those wild spring breaks.
No.
Do you have friends who have a wild spring break?
Yeah, a lot of my friends are working, though, since it's senior year and everything, and they're going just to Tennessee or something like that, but I don't know. It's my last year. I'd just rather, I guess, go with my family than go somewhere crazy.
Case, you ever go on one of those crazy trips?
I never did crazy trips in the spring break. But summer, I've had some crazy trips in the summer. I got 2 callers just popped in right now, so let me get those guys ready, and we'll
let's get them on because we're about ending the show.
That's right.
All right. Who we got?
Let's see here.
I know one of these guys is going to be Sir Boy. I know it.
Well, guess who it is?
Is that my main man, Sir Boy Wonder?
What's up, Tom? How you doing, bud?
Good, man. How you doing?
Oh, fantastic. It's great to see your lovely face again.
Yes, well, thank you.
Friday.
Thank you. It's nice to hear your voice again. What have you been up to? What are you doing? You getting fired? I know you're buying the hype.
Oh, absolutely. Tom, you got to buy the hype, man. Come on. You got to buy the hype. Ellie De La Cruz, Christian Encarnacion Strand, and all the boys. They're going to be good this year. But reason why I called is, Tom, our Buckeyes, they look great, man. Ryan Day, he's got them rolling. What do you think? Do you think it's national championship or bust this year for Ryan Day?
I don't know about national championship or bust. I think if they get, they're going to get in the college football playoff unless the quarterback situation doesn't work out because they got everything everywhere else. They got the best running back room in the country, probably the best wide receiver group in the country. The defense will probably be the best defense in the country. All Americans everywhere, because they all came back. So if Day gets them to a championship game, they've got the roster this year. If the quarterback, the kid from Kansas State, plays like he did most of his career at Kansas State, they're going to be unbelievable. But, it's this year the schedule changes, man, with Oregon and these teams coming into the Big Ten. They play Oregon like the 4th week of the season on the road. And we know they have to play Penn State, and they have to play on the road. And they have to play Michigan at home. So, their schedule is going to be tough, but I think they're loaded. I'm with you. All right, Sir Boy, have a great weekend. Who else we got? So we sneak them in before noon.
I think that's it.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, I didn't mean to cut Sir Boy off then. My bad.
That's okay.
Okay, all right. Last question, Lindsay.
Yeah.
Are you a high nooner?
I love high noons.
Oh.
They just came out with a new pack, the like Snow Patrol pack or whatever.
Snow Patrol.
It's like Ski Lodge something. It's something like that, but it's good.
Snow Patrol.
It's something like Ski Lodge or something like that.
Ski Lodge. Okay,
Something
that,
like
that
that.
makes sense. Okay, and what's in that?
The flavors?
Yeah.
There's
Hemp.
There's like plum, raspberry, and then like 3 others, but I can't think of them. But they're good. I don't really look at the flavors too much. Besides black cherry, I hate
can't
black
believe
cherry.
plum is a flavor.
It actually is good. It doesn't sound like it would be good, but it's actually good.
I don't even know if I ever had a plum before. That's
Love
too
plum. They're great.
That's too big league for me.
No, it's not. No, it is not. There's nothing big league about it. AJ said it's called the Snow Bunny Pack.
Oh, that's crazy.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either. All right. Well, yeah, Nate says they're getting way too many free ads. I agree. We have hit high noon. Coming up here in a matter of minutes. Now, there's no box lunch today, right? Or is there for members, or what's the deal?
No box lunch today. We did something yesterday to try to appease the crowd because we knew we weren't going to be able to do box lunch today. So after the show today, it's going to go right into your interview.
Yep.
And I'm sure that there's also going to be a vlog out at some point after that as well.
Okay. So the interview is with, again, Justin Williams from The Athletic. If you're one of these college sports fans, and most of you are, I think you're going to find this interview pretty interesting. We taped it late yesterday afternoon. Justin was the UC beat writer basically for The Athletic for about 3 years, and now he is one of their national guys, right? Primarily focused on the Big 12, but he is a big national guy now. So he's rubbing elbows with all the guys that are on the committee of the College Football Playoff, committee of the NCAA basketball tournament, is really tuned into the whole NIL thing. So I've had a hard time understanding this whole NIL thing with all these lawsuits and all this stuff going on. If you're interested in how it works, like one of the questions I asked him in the interview, and we'll just stay with Ryan Day because we were just talking about him. I asked him the question, are we at a point now where Ryan Day is walking into, or he's on the phone with a transfer portal guy, say Will Howard, who's the quarterback, just transferred from Kansas State, or even a high school player? Is he walking in the room with basically a number that they're going to offer this kid in the NIL to play football for Ohio State? I'm curious, is that the way this thing works? I have no idea. I think you'll find his answer to that and many, many others, including the College Football Playoff. We haven't even gone to 12 yet, and they're talking about going to 14. And the NCAA. What's really the future? What about this Dartmouth thing? Where is that all leading? I find this stuff fascinating. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. If you're interested, it's coming up right now. Casey, Lindsay, have a great weekend.
You too.
It's been nice being back with you.
Thank you for filling in, Tom. We appreciate it.
Of course. All right, company man.
Company guy.
Company guy. You got to pick up the next guy. Want a skeleton crew? They need help. We got to help the next guy, right?
That's
what
right.
it's all about. So take care of yourself. Have a wonderful, safe St. Paddy's Day weekend. We'll see you Monday live here for Dialed In with Thom Brennaman at 9:15. Have a great weekend.